Good afternoon, good morning. Thank you for joining us today. I am Brie Welzer, Director of Science and Standards at Green Seal. I am joining you today from Washington, D.C., and I am glad to have my standards colleague on the line as well, Brittany Mall, who is joining us from Wisconsin. In the case that I experienced technical difficulties, Brittany will jump in to keep us going. Today's webinar will be recorded, and the slides and the transcript will be available on Green Seal's website and also on the Global Ecolabelling Network website as soon as next week. We will send all attendees and registrants the links to those materials and to this video. Today, we encourage all attendees to ask questions at any time using the Zoom chat feature. Just plug in your question and, if possible, specify who you'd like to hear from for an answer. And we will read aloud the questions, and we will provide answers at the end of this webinar. Today, Green Seal is very glad to welcome 4 speakers who will cover different areas of the same topic. How can we, as consumers, procurement professionals, or building managers, find products that have been verified to work as we need them to, but have also been verified to be better for people and our planet? How do we know that the group who has completed the product certification, such as Green Seal, is independent, impartial, and that the standards cover the most significant health and environmental protections? So to answer that question, today we'll talk through how will you know your eco-label? How can certified products help you to address health equity in your workplaces? We'll hear a deep dive from a research physical scientist about the products and chemical ingredients, and then we'll hear from 2 experts on health protective facility care. Today, we'll hear from Kate Harris, Dr. Kristin Isaacs, Kurt Kuempel, and Kimberly Thomas. First, I'll be glad to provide a quick introduction to Green Seal. Green Seal is a global nonprofit organization with a mission to transform the economy for a healthier, greener world. Since 1989, Green Seal has applied rigorous standards for health, environmental sustainability, and product functional performance via our certification program in order to empower better purchasing decisions. Green Seal has certified thousands of products, services, and spaces from companies including 3M, Ecolab, Georgia Pacific, Benjamin Moore, Hilliard, Hilton, and Staples. Green Seal certified products are specified by countless schools, government agencies, businesses, and institutions around the world. Green Seal currently has 23 science-based standards that cover more than 450 product and service categories, ranging from bath tissue, adhesives, paints and coatings, and cleaning services, hotels, and of course, cleaning products, which we'll dive into today. We have 2 standards which are actually in development, one for green and healthy schools and colleges, and one for sustainable trash bags and can liners. Please reach out to us if you're interested in learning more about those initiatives or would be interested in participating as a stakeholder or working group member. Green Seal standards are designed to address the most significant, measurable life cycle impacts for health and human health and environmental sustainability. We categorize these impacts into 4 target areas, which makes up the Green Seal compass that you see on this slide. Green Seal uses this compass to guide our standard development and standard revisions. We use this as a framework for assigning the intended outcome to the standard and its requirements. As you'll see here, the 4 impact areas are protecting human health, which we do by eliminating and restricting known hazards, such as carcinogens, asthmagens, and volatile organic compounds from the products that we certify. We minimize waste by setting requirements for recovered and recycled materials and requiring the verification of product functional performance. We ensure clean water. We ensure that the materials we're certifying are biodegradable, are non-toxic to aquatic life, and do not contribute to eutrophication of water bodies. And we work to preserve the climate, in part by requiring concentrated products, reducing the energy in the manufacturing phase of the life cycle, and also again limiting VOCs, or volatile organic compounds, in product formulas. One area that we see as critical is encouraging products to be reformulated or originally designed using green chemistry principles, which means that those products will be less harmful, in particular to the respiratory systems of children and custodial workers and other vulnerable populations, or those who are more likely to come into contact every day with cleaning chemicals. There are so many chemicals floating through our air of indoor spaces, our facilities, and even our homes, as Kristin will explain in just a bit. And in order to limit the likelihood of health effects, Green Seal sets rigid prohibitions on hazardous chemicals. As defined in our standards, which are available for free on our website, you can download them on our website, we ensure that these hazards you see on the screen are not in certified products, down to at least no more than 100 parts per million in the product, which means 0.01% of the product. We screen these chemicals, whether they were intentionally added or unintentionally added from raw materials or as byproducts of the chemical mixture itself. So again, through Green Seal certification, we verify that the product is non-toxic via ingestion and inhalation, that it is not formulated with carcinogens, mutagens, reproductive toxins, endocrine disruptors, or asthmagens, and that the product will not irreparably damage skin and or eyes in the chance that it's splashed, for example. In order to encourage product manufacturers to continue to develop health protective products and to encourage purchasers and buyers to seek out certified products, we share the estimated beneficial impacts of our work. Green Seal standards and the purchase and use of Green Seal certified products mean that many hazardous chemicals were essentially no longer emitted into the classrooms of our schools or our office buildings. For example, 3.8 metric tons of carbon is estimated to not be emitted into the air because hundreds of thousands of office buildings are choosing to use Green Seal certified products, which are like bath tissue, which are made from 100% recycled fibers, meaning zero tree fibers. Here are some of the companies and organizations that we've worked with to develop standards, to test their products, to identify the most critical needs in their industry, and to partner on science communications campaigns, with all of us pursuing the same intended outcome, that in the future, the products, healthier, greener products will be widely accessible and supply chains will be significantly safer. Over the last 10 years, there has been a proliferation of eco-labels and green claims on products. But how can you tell which eco-label is independent and is developing science-based standards based on best practices? One distinguishing factor you can use is the eco-label a member of the Global Ecolabelling Network called GEN, G-E-N. Green Seal is actually a founding member of GEN about 20 years ago. It is the International Association of Ecolabels, which have proven to meet the ISO 14024 standard for best practices in standard development and certification of environmental leadership products and services. To be a full GEN member, every 5 years, Green Seal and all other members must undergo a review process called Genesis to verify that our programs, practices, and technical decision-making meet the detailed requirements of the ISO 14024 standard. We actually just underwent and passed our Genesis review in October. So to tell you a bit more about GEN, I will now shift to a video from Kate Harris, who is the secretariat of the Global Ecolabelling Network. She's based in Australia, which is why she could not join us in person today.
Welcome everyone to this important webinar and discussion today. I would really love to be there, but due to time zone, I will be fast asleep, but I know it's going to be a fantastic conversation. I'm Kate Harris and I'm the Global Ecolabelling Network Secretariat. I have previously been a board member and also a member, and so well versed and very passionate about the role of Global Ecolabelling Network, also affectionately known as GEN. Thanks to Greensill for hosting today. Of course, they are one of our full Genesis members, and you will hear more about that from me in a minute. So why Gen? We're 27 years old, and we've since the beginning and that point of where environmental concerns around people and planet were coming to the fore. Gen was founded in order to ensure that fight against greenwash, to make sure that there was quality and credible eco-labels, delivering and ensuring solutions for sustainability. 27 years later, we're still here and we still have more work to do. We know that there are many labels out in the market, but many of them don't necessarily speak to the level of credibility and good governance, and indeed the full impact of how a particular product or service may impact the environment. We are the member body for quality eco-labels that do follow ISO 14024. And how do we do that? We're about growing capability and connectivity between members, including processes like mutual recognition, sharing of technical information, and a sharing of standards. And we also provide a rigorous peer review process known as Genesis. Greensill have just completed again their Genesis requirements, and of course that means they are one of our most outstanding eco-labels, like our Genesis members, who are out in the world driving real change, ensuring that it is meaningful, valuable and credible information for all of you to be working with in your supply chain. We currently have 30 full Genesis members and 7 associate members that are on the way to becoming accredited, peer accredited with us as full associate members. This conversation today around health and impacts speaks more to just planet. It speaks to the heart of people. And we know through multiple labels, greenwashing, self-declared claims, single issues, that it is a very confusing market to have to navigate and find quality labels and assurance when facing sustainable procurement. This is where Gen comes in. We do encourage you to go onto our website, globalecolabelling.net, and have a look. Where are the key members, such as Greensill, in your area? If you're joining from overseas, hopefully there's one near you. We are certainly covering the globe and increasingly working with organisations such as United Nations Environment to continue to scale the capability of eco-labels across the globe. It's all down to you. It's all down to all of us to continue to fight the greenwash, to continue to do the right thing by people and planet. And certainly following the ISO 14024 and quality eco-labels and looking at all impacts across the life cycle are a critical way to deliver that. Hence, we work with you in partnership in order to deliver those quality procurement decisions, and look forward to making the next 20 years a very different picture for our people and planet. Thanks again to Greensill. Congratulations again on your recompletion of your Genesis certificate, and we look forward to hearing from you all soon. All the best, and go for it. Learn lots and ask good questions, and I look forward to watching the recording. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Well, now that we've talked briefly about credible eco-labels being members of the Global Ecolabelling Network, I will shift us back to an important topic of health protections. One area that Greensill staff and our community are particularly focused on is how our work is addressing the concept of health equity. The Centers for Disease Control in the US defines health equity as when everyone has the opportunity to attain their full health potential and no one is disadvantaged from achieving this potential because of their social position or other socially determined circumstances. So what does this mean for custodial teams and professionals who clean each day for their work? We've seen this from the COVID pandemic. Our essential workers have borne the burden in the coronavirus, and they're one of the factors why we saw disproportionate death rates for individuals of color, for example. One particular way that Green Seal is addressing health equity is by providing certification to these products, professional cleaning products, to reduce the chemical exposures to these workers. Daily chemical exposures are not only happening for professional cleaners in your facilities, but also schools and home healthcare workers, daycare workers, personal care aides, nursing assistants, all of whom are required to use cleaning products throughout their work days, exposing them to significant levels of cleaning products via inhalation, which reduces their lung function, making them more easily out of breath. The products can sit on their skin, causing significant rashes and allergies. So purchasing the right products for your workers and also in your home, training your professional staff to appropriately apply Green Seal certified products can significantly reduce your workers' exposure to hazardous chemicals and protect not only your workers, but also their families, as these chemicals can seep into the workers' clothing and also remain on their skin and hair. To talk more about that, I'm very glad to introduce you to Dr. Kristin Isaacs, who will tell us more about chemicals in cleaning products and our exposures to these chemicals. Kristin is a research scientist in exposure science and human exposure modeling at the US EPA. She develops predictive computational tools and related data for use in estimating population exposures to chemicals and air pollutants to support the agency's decision-making. Kristin, please take it away.
Yes, thank you so much. I would like to thank Green Seal for the opportunity to speak with you today. I am Kristin Isaacs, and I'm a research scientist in the EPA's Office of Research and Development. As a government scientist, I will be talking today about understanding exposures to chemicals and cleaning products. And as a government scientist, my research is really focused around helping the agency understand what chemicals are in the everyday products that we encounter in our lives and on the job, and how we might come into contact with them. And then this knowledge helps the agency determine how safe these chemicals are and ultimately what risk they pose to our health. Next slide. Okay, so before I get started, as a government scientist, I do have to provide the disclaimer that any opinions I express today are mine alone and that they may not reflect the policies of EPA. In addition, neither myself nor EPA endorse any specific commercial products or companies. Okay, next. So before I get started, I do want to say that chemicals do occur in almost all the products that we use in our homes and workplaces. Chemicals are not inherently bad or dangerous. They are in our products, as you know, to perform really useful functions. For example, can we just go back one? Yeah. For example, in cleaning products, chemicals may be present to act as agents that break down dirt or oils to make them easier to remove. And then, you know, in an example that should be familiar to everyone from the COVID times that we're living in, they may also contain biocides that kill germs on surfaces. So product manufacturers do consider both safety and efficacy of what we call these intentionally added ingredients when they design their products. However, chemicals may also be present in products from contamination, for example, during the manufacturing process, or from packaging, or from degradation of chemicals within the product. So how do we as consumers or workers know what is in our products? Next. Actually, it can be quite difficult. So under regulations from the Occupational Health and Safety Administration, or OSHA, hazardous chemicals contained in products that may be used in occupational settings must be disclosed by manufacturers on safety data sheets, or SDS. However, in some cases, there are exceptions for cleaning products. And even when this information is required to be on an SDS, it may not be included on the product label, so it can be hard to find, for example, for a user. In addition, these SDS do not include information about contaminants, or may not include information about contaminants or unintentionally added chemicals in the product. Next slide, please. Yeah, so how many different chemicals are we talking about? Some of the work I do here at EPA is collecting information from thousands and thousands of these SDS and many, many different types of products to support the evaluation of chemical safeties by the agency. In the databases that we have been building, we have information on tens of thousands of cleaning products. And given the caveat that some of these cleaning products are specialized products used in occupational settings or industrial settings, we have tentatively identified somewhere in the order of 3,000 different chemicals that may be contained in cleaning products. And so even though I'm not going to talk about it in detail today, I did want to share briefly that as we collect and confirm this type of information, we include it in a public tool provided by the Office of Research Development, which we call our CompTox dashboard, which is available at the link here. And one can go to that website and search by chemical or by product to find more information about the chemical, including information about its toxicity. Next, please. So in addition to collecting this reported information from SDS, we are also at EPA developing new analytical chemistry measurement technologies that allow us to look in product samples for thousands of chemicals at a time. This is a paper we published a couple of years ago where we looked at chemicals in 100 consumer products of 20 different types. And as far as cleaning products go, we looked specifically at glass cleaners and air fresheners. So we only looked at a limited number of samples of each type of product, but even in that limited number of samples, we found dozens of chemicals in these products that were not included in our databases of reported information. So bottom line, there can be a lot of uncertainty as to what is in any particular product. So even though there's this uncertainty around which chemicals are present in different products, we know that some of the chemicals that occur are associated with the health effects. So here are some examples of some recent scientific studies that look at the link between chemicals in cleaning products and health effects like respiratory problems and asthma, skin irritations and allergic reactions, and even potential endocrine disruption. So that is when chemicals enter our bodies and act like hormones, disrupting normal biological pathways. And then there can be many other health effects as well. So next. So just to do a little bit deeper dive into a specific example, I want to talk a little bit about glycol ethers. So glycol ethers are water-soluble organic chemicals that have many uses, including as solvents in inks, paints, and of course, cleaning compounds. An example of a glycol ether is 2-butoxyethanol, which in our database of reported ingredients can be found in surface cleaners, bathroom cleaners, floor and carpet cleaners, glass cleaners, as well as many other categories of products. So according to risk assessments performed by EPA and available in the open literature, glycol ethers have been associated with a variety of health effects in animal studies, including lung, liver, and kidney effects, as well as reproductive and developmental effects. Next slide. Okay, so you notice here that, sorry, just back one, Brie. Sorry. So you notice here that I'm highlighting that I'm talking about exposure. And exposure is a very important concept in understanding risk. It's because in order to understand the risk of any of these health effects actually occurring when we use these products, we have to consider both toxicity and exposure. Next. And this concept is captured in the adage that you may have heard before, the dose makes the poison. And that's a quote that is credited to Paracelsus, who was a Renaissance era doctor who is considered the father of toxicology. And this adage really gets at a kind of simple idea, right? That the potential of any chemical in can cause problems depending on how much chemical you come into contact with, right? So the risk of any health effect, I'll go ahead and next, just advance it one, please. So the risk of any health effect is a function of both the toxicity of a chemical, which is defined as the degree to which that chemical can cause harm in a biological system, and the exposure then, which is the degree of contact between a chemical and a human. So when we are estimating risk, exposure is often measured as the amount of chemical crossing over the body barrier per kilogram body weight, right? So that gives you a measurement of how much chemical is entering your body. Okay, next. And as you might imagine, our ability to quantify this exposure is dependent on many factors. So the highest exposures that we see are for people who are directly using this product. And then the exposure itself is actually also dependent on how much of a chemical is in a specific product. So if you have a product that contains a chemical at a higher concentration, that of course is greater exposure. And then the highest exposures, like I said, occur during the direct use, and the chemicals can, during the direct use, the chemicals can enter the body through different routes, depending on how the products are used. For example, is it a spray product or is it a wipe-on product? And also the chemical properties. Brie mentioned volatile organic chemicals earlier. So, chemicals that evaporate more easily may have more potential for exposure via different pathway routes. So these routes include dermal exposure. So that can be from actually touching the product or getting the product on your skin, or direct air to skin transport, which actually does happen. By inhalation, you can actually inhale both the vapor that I just talked about, chemical that is evaporated from the product that you're using, or also if you're using aerosol formulations, you can actually inhale, particles of the product itself, of course, which contain chemical. And then this is a little bit non-intuitive, but you can also swallow it, right? So we as humans have this habit of putting our hands to our mouth, touching our faces, and you can transfer chemical to your mouth that way and ingest it. And then that aerosol inhalation that I was talking about, our airways are actually designed to capture those types of particles, right? And so they get into the mucus in our lungs. But what happens to that mucus is that it comes up our airways and we swallow it. And so that means that the chemical may end up in your stomach and cross over into your body or into your bloodstream through the stomach lining. So next slide, please. So even though those highest exposures occur during the use of the product, we also have the potential for what we call indirect exposure. So these are exposures that can happen after the product's been used. So indoors in your school or in your home, chemicals can stay on surfaces over time, and then they can, based on their properties, they can migrate into indoor air and into dust, where then these contaminated media can also come into contact with humans. And so that's really important because both direct and indirect exposure can contribute to risk. So risk can be a function of exposure pattern as well as magnitude. So risk might be associated with a single high acute exposure that you get when you use a product, or it could be a function of chronic exposure or exposure that happens, lower exposures that happen over time. Next slide. Because risk then depends on both hazard and exposure, it can be reduced by decreasing both the toxicity of the chemicals in the products and or by reducing exposure. So EPA's Safer Choice program, which is an EPA program that promotes the use of lower toxicity ingredients in consumer products. And this program maintains its safer chemical ingredients list, which you can find here at this link on the EPA website. And this contains a list of chemicals that have been evaluated by EPA and determined to be safer than traditional product ingredients. But risk can then be reduced by decreasing exposure as well, by selecting products with lower concentrations of these toxic chemicals, or by using protective gear like gloves or respirators, or even by choosing products that reduce exposure through limiting the pathways through which you might get exposed. And the best example of that is selecting a non-aerosol or non-spray formulation, which reduces that inhalation of aerosols and chemical. So in summary, chemicals can occur in cleaning products, both intentionally and unintentionally, and products can contain a wide variety of chemicals. And there's really a lot of uncertainty sometimes as to what the chemicals might actually be present. And so the risks to humans from these chemicals are a function of both toxicity, how hazardous the chemical is, and how much exposure one receives. And thus risk can be reduced by reducing the toxicity associated with these ingredients, choosing safer or less toxic chemicals, and also by taking steps to reduce your exposure. And I'll be happy to take questions at the end of the webinar. Thank you.
Kristin, thank you so much. I find it really interesting to consider the difference between vapor and aerosolized particles and products that inevitably have both, that are spray applied. So you have the aerosols, but they also have fragrance or the solvent. And so you're getting the vapors and you're inhaling and ingesting
Yes.
the aerosolized, essentially water particles that contain the liquid product that is floating in the air. So something I like to do is consider, is this week going to be a cleaning heavy week? Should I reduce my exposure to fragrances? And so, just considering every day what it is that you're either intentionally or unintentionally being exposed to. I think it's kind of similar to maybe some of our risk allowances or risk budgets for what we considered for COVID. Do I go into the store? Do I not go into the store? Do I order my groceries? That type of thing. How risk adverse are you? How much can you, or do you want to cut down on your exposure to potentially hazardous chemicals in all types of products, including personal care and cleaning?
Right.
Thanks very much. That's fascinating. All right. We are now shifting to our experts in the field. First, we will talk to Kurt and then to Kimberly. Kurt has been the general manager of the Illinois office of GSF USA since August 2012, and he is responsible for all business operations, including sales, customer service, operations, and account management. And as I have heard from him personally, he is passionate about health protections and environmental protections in his work. Go right ahead.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. And again, I like being called an expert, so keep that coming. I'm here to introduce our company. Obviously, we are a professional cleaning company. And we'll share a little story about kind of how we first started, because I was asked to. So GSF, you could probably flip the slide. GSF started in Paris, France in 1963. And through a slow process, we have essentially organically grown our footprint to over 5 countries, France, Spain, UK, Canada, and then I say most recently, the United States. The company was started by one man, Jean Noisier, who is still the owner of the company today. He started his office in Paris and with one customer and a team, and grew it organically with the principles of I'm going to invest in my people and I'm going to invest in my customers. And that model still exists today and is how we have grown to the size of over 36,000 employees today. The neat story of how we ended up in the United States from France is Mr. Noisier today is in his mid to late 80s. And he always tells a story, that when he was a little boy, he remembers holding his mom's hands on the streets of Paris being liberated from the Germans by the US. And that was an imprint on his life. And as he was building his business, the opportunity to one day be able to have a business in the United States was very important to him. And so in 1987, he made one of the few acquisitions that he did in Indianapolis, Indiana, of all places. And he instilled the principles in which he built the core business in France over here in the United States. And we have grown slowly and organically since that time to really, as you can see on the map, there is a Midwest footprint. Today, over 1,500 employees, cleaning over 50 million square feet a day. And as obviously you can see, the regional offices where we're located. The segments in which we clean are really just about anything, as you can imagine: office, industrial, agro foods, healthcare, and education. I oversee the Wisconsin and Illinois operations for GSF. And one of our core pieces of our business is really the education segment. The kindergarten through high school is where our focus seems to be. So every major school district in the greater Chicagoland area and up into Wisconsin, there's a good chance that if it's an outsourced cleaning solution, it's our teams doing the work. And as you can imagine, in the school segment, cleaning for health and safety has always been important, but has never been more important than it is today. Flip the slide, please. So where's our focus and what is our core values and what does our company look like? Really, it starts with culture. The commitments we make to our customers. We really care about clean. It's the people, it's the passion, and it's really the continuous improvement that we make in both ourselves, our investments in our customers, and what we what we train and develop our teams to do. GSF is not a job, it's a career. It's very unique to find that in the cleaning industry, but it really is for most of the folks on our team. You know, obviously that brings you right into the respect for people. Treating people with dignity and respect is at the core of what we do. We empower people to do a job. The days of a checklist and going down of checking you've done all these things in this room or in this building are gone. We want people to be able to take ownership of their space and treat it as if they would, you know, treat cleaning in their house. Professional approach. We spend a lot of time training people through an extensive program we call GSF University. It's both training from vendors, it's training on chemicals, and we even incorporate college training classes for our teams. We spend a lot of time talking about leadership. You can have all the right tools and all the right you know, chemicals in play, but it's really how you're leading and growing and developing a team to make sure that you know, that end job of caring about clean gets executed. And we invest in terms of the professional approach. We're buying we're buying new equipment. We're investing in new innovative technology, in robots, and we're using a very innovative, or I'd say unique approach to the chemicals we use, ECAS chemicals. Many people know it as on-site generation. We put that entire program together, so we're ensuring we're giving our teams the right tools to do the job that makes them the most efficient and safe for them. And then really our identity. We have a strong identity. I think you know, at this point, our customers know who we are and know who we're not. We're not going to pretend to clean. We're going to execute on the job that we have to do. So we're really proud of the company that we've created. Next slide, please. You know, obviously a lot of what we're talking about today is, you know, chemicals. And what I found unique is when I came to this industry, I would say 7 years ago, and I was first starting to meet with the customers that we had or growing our business, I found it very unique that I never really had conversations with our customers about the chemicals we were using. And I never had conversations about the equipment and the process. And I found that very unique because at the core, that's what we're trying to accomplish every day. We built our business around being able to force those conversations and tell them what we're using because we're proud of it. And what we found through the COVID process is now everybody, you know, has wanted to become an expert in the chemicals that are being sprayed every day. And let's be honest, from the last 18 months, we've been spraying chemicals all over the place. You know, and what I've challenged with our customers more so now than ever is, do we know what we're spraying? We made a journey 5 years ago to put in a ECAS, again, on-site generation system through Pathosands, which is a Green Seal certified chemical use, and we use it everywhere. Cleaning for health and safety, both of our employees, but most importantly, the stakeholders that are at the building, the teachers, the students, the parents that enter the building. And, you know, over the past 18 months, we've done a good job of using new technology, electrostatic sprayers. And as you see a lot of companies out there that are using electrostatic sprayers and they're dressed up in very aggressive suits. You know, I always challenge customers, do you know what you're putting into these new these new devices, and understanding that you're supercharging chemicals, and how does that impact the people that are doing the work for you every day? Can you guarantee they're properly masked and using goggles when you're spraying a harsh chemical around? I had so many conversations with the customers talking about, does these chemicals kill? And they were racing to the quickest kill time of COVID. And I tell people all the time, it's easy to find a chemical that kills something, but can you find a chemical that kills what you're attempting to kill without harming individuals and people around you? I believe we found one in the chemical solution we use, and we're proud to say that and use that in every location that we have today. It wasn't a move for COVID; it was something we were doing well before, and we're proud of that. Next slide, please. What we started again before COVID is, you know, we're very proud of the process that we have, with chemicals being a big part of it, of cleaning every day. And we partnered with Green Seal for a GS42 certification. What that showcased to our customers is that we were delivering the highest standard of clean through a certified process. Our program is simple. It's 5 pillars that create and deliver that promise to our customers. It's our GSF University, our leadership training, our development of managers and leaders for our teams, documented training and procedures for all of our employees, a minimum of 24 hours a calendar year, environmentally sourced consumables. Regardless if we are providing consumables for our customers or not, we are at minimally helping them make the right decisions in the products they are using. Number 4 is sustainable cleaning chemicals. Again, we use Pathosans, ECAS, on-site generation chemicals. We're developing that chemical solution on-site for our customers using water, salt, and electricity. The most effective solution at killing things, but safe for everybody that is using the products or that is in the facilities. One of the neat functions of creating chemicals on site is the supply and demand. At a time when it was hard for people to get chemicals, that wasn't something that we had to worry about because we had an unlimited supply. And the 5th one is using high-tech equipment, obviously investing in new technology, using robotic technology, and using ECH2O technology on our tenant scrubbers. So those 5 pillars really go into creating this program that we can ensure that we're delivering the highest standard of clean for our customers. The final slide. And getting all of that stuff right, we're able to focus all of our efforts and attention on our team, our people. That's the core of what it's done. You could have the right solution for your chemicals and your equipment, but ultimately it's the team that has to deliver that end product. And we're proud of the team that we've developed, and proud of the team that we continue to grow. And I believe that's it.
Kurt, thank you so much. Kurt and I were talking a couple weeks ago to prepare for this webinar, and we both talked about this, one of several silver linings to this really difficult time during a pandemic, that our frontline workers, and in particular our custodians, are now more visible, and the respect for these individuals and professionals is significantly higher, we believe, than it was before the COVID pandemic. Just to echo what Kurt said, these individuals are actually highly specialized in what they do. And when we see that groups like GSF are really meeting the Green Seal standard, it's such a relief to know that major companies are investing in their workers, in particular for training and procurement, to protect these individuals, to help them grow, to practice best practices, and to protect all of us, such as those you can see, the custodians of our schools, whose responsibilities are so high to protect our vulnerable, growing bodies of our little population. Kurt, thank you so much for the work you do and for this presentation. I'm now glad to introduce Kimberly. She is the Senior Director, Kimberly Thomas from University of Georgia. She is the Senior Director of Services at UGA Facilities Management Division, and she was responsible for building services, fleet and grounds, sustainability, warehouse operations, and the Work Request Center. Before that, when I originally met her, she was Executive Director of Plant Operations at Clark County School District in Georgia, in charge of custodial operations, ground sustainability recycling, the warehouse physical plant operations, and she is award-winning. Kimberly has been helping Green Seal, the Healthy Schools campaign and network in so many ways by plugging into standard development for both products and services. She has been just a tour de force. She has been this incredible leader for our US best practices in facilities management. Kimberly, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Brie. Your check is in the mail for that wonderful introduction. Thank you so much, and thank Green Seal for the opportunity to share a little bit about our program. And we're really thankful that we have been able to really focus on incorporating more sustainable operations since around 2008. When I first came over to the facility side of our university's operation as the assistant director for services, which is our custodial operation, one of the things we quickly realized was that we were having employees with respiratory issues, asthma, our students, our faculty and staff in some of our campus buildings had complained about, headaches or being concerned if they were pregnant and working in their workspaces as far as, what could our custodial staff, what could our facility staff to help make their environments feel more comfortable, and that they could feel more comfortable in doing their work in labs, going into classroom spaces, and also in just their administrative areas. So we were very fortunate at that time that we were able to bring a lot of stakeholders on board to have these early conversations around, let's look at the products that we're using, let's look at our training, let's look at our operational practices. And we very quickly realized that, the only ones who are stopping us from making changes in a more sustainable operation is really ourselves. There was no limits on what we could do to change our process. So we took that powerful idea and worked to look around with our distributors, looked at the products we were using, worked with our staff, got their impressions on what's working, what's not working. We have been able to benefit with our College of Public Health. These are educated professionals who can help, determine what is really safe, what is not safe. But beyond that, we realized that we really wanted to focus on our third-party certifications because it levels the playing field. We can't possibly do a lab research on each and every product that we have at our disposal. We don't have the time, we don't have the expertise. So that's one of the really great things that I would encourage you in your program to really think about. Do you have time to look at all of the chemicals, all of the products, whether it's your paper, whether it's your trash bags, and really make that determination yourself? I tell you, just with the things that we have to do on a daily basis, and even before COVID pandemic, we wouldn't have had time with the expertise. So it is really a comfort that we have incorporated our third-party certification practice in our product selection. And any thing that we want to demo to see if this is going to be better than what we have already instituted in our green cleaning program, which, like I said, since the early 2000s have really been the way we conduct our business. Our green cleaning program is how we conduct our business. And just to give you a little idea of where we are at the University of Georgia, we're located in Athens, Georgia, which is roughly an hour east of Atlanta, if you can imagine that on the map for the Southeast. We are a public institutional institution, and we have just shy of 40,000 students. We have about 11,000 employees in our workforce. And at our FMD, which is our facilities management organization, we have just a little over 900 employees. And of that, we have probably about 350 building service employees, which you might know as custodial employees. We worked on the naming of our staff. We said, are you okay with calling yourself custodians? And they're like, no, we do not want that word. So when you talk about social equity, even early on, we kind of poll the staff and say, what do you want your working title to be? And they say, we are building service employees because we are here to take care of the building. We know we are here for service, and we want our customers to know that we are here for their public health, right? So that's what we began calling our employees even as early as 2011. We have about 300 resident instruction buildings that our staff work in out of a total of 465 buildings on our campus. And the University of Georgia is the oldest land and sea grant institution in the United States. So we like to affectionately say we were here first. We kicked everything off as far as a college or a university in the United States. So just to share that with you, we spend about $300,000 per year on our products. We do have a green cleaning purchasing standard that we use. And that is not just for our facility management division, but that's for our entire campus. We have been fortunate that our training program, which we received a lot of national and regional recognition, it's called the Building Service Worker Academy. In this academy, we spend the first week of a 2-week period really focused on our products, teaching our employees how our green cleaning program benefits their personal safety and not just the safety of our faculty, students, and staff. But we want them to go home healthy. We want them to know that the products that we have selected have been vetted. They have industry recognition for what they do. Their hazardous ratings are as low as possible. Again, we cannot possibly do enough experiments on these products ourselves. That's why we rely on folks like GreenSeal and other third-party assessments that make sure that the products we use are safe. If they say that they're going to biodegrade when they go to the landfill, we can't do that experiment. We depend on them to do that type of research for us. Just to give you a couple of those examples. The second week of that Building Service Worker Academy is we actually send them into the buildings where they will be assigned so that they can have the practical hands-on experiment. And they can really see that the training has moved from the classroom into the workplace where they are. And that gives them assurance. It helps our customers feel great that we're training on a consistent basis. So one building is not going to be cleaned in a different way from another. So there's consistency throughout the program. And we also like to think that's one of the reasons why certification of products works for us. There is a consistency there that you couldn't do alone. Let's see. We also talked about the importance of the products we use in that purchasing guideline from meeting U.S. health standards. Again, that's very important for us to be able to look at the safety data sheets and understand that it's been certified and vetted. If there's any question at all, we know that we are dealing with products that we have full assurance. And then when you're working in a place where we have a vet school, a veterinarian school for animals, we talked about earlier, Brie mentioned I worked at the Clark County School District as an executive director, and being a mom myself, just knowing that the products we use are safe for our littlest ones in our schools, whether they might have to be in a nursery, or our teachers who have to have contact with them. As we have dealt with COVID in the last 2 years, we know that it's been vitally important, and our building service workers are on the front line of that, but our teachers have been on the front line of that as well. Our technicians who are making sure that our HVAC systems are meeting the industry standards for the highest level of filtration that we can have in our classrooms and in our labs and our spaces where they're working and learning is vitally important. All of those things you can't escape. I think the pandemic has just really highlighted how important our frontline workers are. And again, as been talked about previously as far as social equity, as leaders in our facility operations, it's important to make sure that our staff know that we care for them and that we're providing them with the best tools, the best products that we can so that they can feel assured. If they have to be here, they're working in safe environments so that when they go home, they feel that they have done what they can to working safely at our campuses, that when they do go home, that they're not taking anything back home, that they don't want to put their families at risk. Next slide. following along with my presentation as well. I'm here as far as talking about COVID and how it's required everyone to become part of our team. Really want to talk about some of the major challenges in supporting our staff. You know, early on, it was vitally important as we talked about how could we possibly return our students to the university campus from being at home. We knew that the cleaning, the sanitation, disinfection, all of that was going to be, you know, very important. But just really when we want to focus on the cleaning aspect of it, we know that we've had a very good green cleaning program, but we also wanted to check and make sure that our process met those requirements for COVID. So again, we checked our EPA, we checked through the CDC guidelines. We already knew that our products met all of those requirements. And again, using the industry standards, the industry recognized experts to ensure that our program was meeting all of those needs. And I think the other part, because our products did meet those standards, was communication to our customers. So we felt very good about compiling information to show them, you know, the safety information for the products that we were using. Talking about the frequency of how many times would we be cleaning offices? How many times throughout the day would we clean public spaces? How many times would we empty trash? How could we work with our campus researchers and staff to say, we don't want to put you in a place where you don't feel comfortable, so we're going to incorporate recycling as a mandatory process to help social distancing between your staff and ours. So we worked out a process so that they could take their personal waste to a hallway container, so that we could limit the access of going inside people's offices. And we also really emphasized, do not bring any traditional products or things from home. We will supply Green Seal certified products for you to use in your labs or in your offices. And we have vetted these with the industry certifications. We have vetted these with our College of Public Health, which is, you know, one of the more recognized public health departments across this country. We have done our part to ensure what we have is safe. So don't bring anything from home. And I think people felt very good about that because they knew that we cared for them and we cared for our staff. And so that was important. And making sure that our personal protective equipment that our staff uses or in line with their safety, I think is very important. Sharing out our process, being very transparent, really helped to move those conversations along. Now, one of the things, you know, that we're trying to do, we talked about, we have been a green cleaning program. We have won many national green cleaning awards for our operation, for our training. One of the things that we're doing for early 2022 is we're going to be participating in a new health standard, which is the Healthy Green Schools and Colleges and Green Seal a national standard for certification, which is a new standard which looks at your facility operations. So not just your products, not just your training, but vetting all of those against third-party certifications, industry standards, how you work with your facility staff, how you work with other stakeholders to communicate what you do, how you make assessments on your program so that the entire facility is healthy from top to bottom, and how do you standardize that? So we're going to be working on that new national standard that is we're kind of like one of the initial colleges and universities that's going to undergo this process. Next slide. Now, we've talked a lot about how comfortable, you know, our department feels with third-party certifications, and I hope that message has came through. But I think the other thing that's been really important, and I'll spend a few minutes just emphasizing on, is how important our employees value what we do. When we talk about social equity, we also, really want to focus in on our frontline staff. You know, we know what the job market has looked like. It's been very tough. It's been very tough on supply chain distribution. Um, but I just think as an overall process, um, being a leader, we have to make sure that we look at all of the potential pitfalls. So we do our due diligence to make sure that we communicate with our staff all of the things that we're doing for their benefit. And then as they work in our facilities, they are our frontline ambassadors to our campus. And they can share how beneficial what they do, is for the faculty and staff. It helps to build that relationship. And I think overall, it helps to make our process at the University of Georgia a success, not by national standards, but just by our own internal standards, because our employees feel great about what they're doing and they can share that out. And even in difficult situations, they know that what they're doing makes a difference.
Kimberly, thank you so much. I have, we're just about out of time, but I have a question to Kurt and Kimberly. Something that we've seen as a challenge is that professional cleaners and in some cases consumers believe that green cleaning products or green products in general are less likely to work well. So just like Kimberly had mentioned, we hear all the time of the worker who is bringing in Fabuloso, sneaking it in and through your bag, and because clean smells like bleach, clean smells like lavender, linalool, for example, clean smells like phthalates, it smells like benzyl acetate. When we know for a fact that that is not the case, that functional ingredients can be and are green ingredients, meaning significantly less hazardous. In other words, and that is why Green Seal standards specify first and foremost the requirements for functional performance to try to demonstrate the product itself is made only of non-hazardous ingredients and it has been verified to work. So I wonder, Kimberly and Kurt, do you still hear that in the time of COVID? Oh, I don't trust green products because.
We initially heard that from some of our faculty members who wanted us to use bleach. And I don't want to pick on bleach a lot, but what we told them is that in our program, clean smells like outside, is fresh. You should not smell anything. When you start smelling things, then we know we have problems. So we don't want to mask anything. We don't want to hide. And we had to show them data. And we had to make sure that, if you don't believe me, I'm not the expert. I know you won't take my word, but that's why we have third-party certification. That's why we bring in our College of Public Health, and they can verify what we say. But at the end of the day, our program was adopted not only locally, but through our university system office to all of the 36 institutions across our state. And we've had plenty of other programs come and mimic what we're doing. So we feel really good.
Thank you. Kurt?
Yeah, I'd say it's still hard. Every time we start with a new customer, or obviously during COVID, a lot of questions come up about the chemical choice that we're using. Ours is even more unique. And you look at ECAS on-site generation chemicals, there's no dye, there's no sense. So if somebody doesn't understand it, a bottle that they're looking at, it looks like water. So we spend a tremendous amount of time training and educating, because what we're really doing is changing the culture of clean, right? For the past 40 years, if it's not burning your eyes or burning your skin, it's not doing the job that it's doing. And as I tell people all the time, it's easy to find a chemical solution that kills things, but we're interested in one that's both accomplishes that, but is safe for you, both for your skin and your eyes and everything else. And so it's not even just the initial training, it's the reoccurrent training. We spend a lot of time shooting videos that highlights that information to our customers, because a lot of people don't like to read anymore. And then we provide a lot of documentation in terms of case studies. But through the, what I'm proud to say is through this whole pandemic, many customers wanted us to change something that was on the end list, right, as we cleaned. And, our solution for chemicals could never be on the end list because it's a device, it's a generation system. And with every customer that we had, and over the 1,000 employees that are, that I'm responsible for, we didn't change our approach to cleaning in any of the environments. And we were in the school districts, the ones where kids are still going to school, and especially in Wisconsin and some of the areas in Illinois. And we're cleaning school buses and we're cleaning cafeterias that students are all in when, everybody believed, you'd get this from the surfaces. And we continued on with what we were doing, and we educated the school districts and the parents, and our folks that we were doing the right thing. So, but it takes a lot of work to change the culture of clean.
Thank you so much. Kristin, I just have one follow-up question for you. Do you believe, can you provide any insight or just personal experience that you think that COVID has changed the way that individuals consider exposure to all types, to indoor environments, or just like, even if they're not using the word exposure, do you feel like people understand your work more because of the headlines that come, that are in our papers these days?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. So anytime that there is a big news story about a chemical in a consumer product or changing patterns of use. So we certainly saw changing patterns of use with COVID for surface cleaners and hand sanitizers and those things like that. Another example is when there are news stories about, a contaminant that has been found in some type of product. So formaldehyde or has been found as a contaminant in product XYZ. Whenever there are news stories like that, it is an opportunity for us to educate folks about exposure science. And we do try to do that and incorporate some of those examples then into the scientific presentations that we give in the future, so that people have that frame of reference and like, oh, that's what she's talking about. So it's similar to when we were concerned about how much triclosan we were getting exposed to from using, hand sanitizers that contain the chemical for, every day, 4 times a day for, a year of a pandemic, right? So yes, I do think people become more aware of these scientific fields when they pop up in the our common frame of reference.
That's great. Yeah, I think I'm not directly in exposure sciences, but it was a relief to me when part of the conversation changed away from being concerned about getting COVID from surfaces to, in fact, airborne exposure to COVID. Because in my mind, it reminded individuals, whenever you spray something, it's in the air. These things a reminder that even if you can't see it, it's there. So let's take precautions.
That's right.
Great. Thank you so much to the 3 of you. It's been a pleasure. This has been very helpful to our staff, our community. So again, for all attendees, thank you for joining. This has been recorded, and the transcript and video will be available on GreenSeal's website and also the Global Ecolabelling Network. Again, Kimberly, Kristin, Kurt, thank you so much for today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Take care. Bye.